The Monster of Iztacalco, the chilling truth about Miguel Cortés. In the crowded borough of Iztacalco, Mexico City, beneath the surface of ordinary life, a nightmare unfolded slowly, one victim at a time. Miguel Cortés Miranda was not the man anyone suspected. He wore a lab coat, carried a degree in science, and lived among people who saw him as quiet and intelligent. But behind his professional mask, Cortés concealed a sinister double life. By day, he was a bacteriologist. By night, he became one of Mexico's most chilling serial killers. Miguel Cortés was born in 1984. On paper, he was a model citizen, highly educated, employed in medical laboratories, and outwardly respectable. But behind closed doors, he was fighting inner demons, shaped by a dark past. As a child, Cortés was sexually abused by his father. The trauma left deep scars. Over time, those wounds twisted into something terrifying. He developed a deep hatred for women, blaming his mother for not protecting him. That hatred simmered for decades, until it finally exploded into a horrifying series of crimes. No one in his life, not his co-workers, neighbors, or even his own family, had any idea of the double life he led. In fact, many described him as reserved but harmless, a man who kept to himself. But that distance was exactly what allowed him to operate in silence. He didn't raise suspicion because he never lost control in public. Every act of violence was calculated, every step taken in the shadows. It all began to unravel in April 2024, when a young girl named Maria Jose Gonzalez disappeared. She was only 17, a high school student with her whole life ahead of her. Her mother, Cassandra, knew something was wrong. Desperate, she searched for her daughter, eventually tracking her to the home of Miguel Cortés. What she found there would change her life forever. Inside Cortés's apartment, Cassandra discovered the unimaginable. Her daughter was being held against her will. In a struggle to save Maria Jose, Cassandra was stabbed multiple times. Her lungs were punctured, her neck was slashed, but miraculously, she survived. Maria Jose was not so lucky. She was murdered and dismembered. Authorities arrived shortly after, and Cortés was arrested on the spot. But what investigators uncovered inside his home went far beyond a single murder. Hidden in buckets and sealed containers were the remains of several women. Human bones, dismembered body parts, and blood-stained tools revealed a pattern of calculated, methodical killing. The apartment was a tomb, and Miguel Cortés was its gravedigger. Over the following days, Cortés confessed to murdering more than 30 women. He admitted that his crimes had started more than a decade earlier. Many of his victims were women he knew, friends, classmates, neighbors. Some were lured through casual conversations or social media. Others were people who simply crossed his path at the wrong time. Once inside his apartment, there was no escape. But the horror didn't stop with murder. Cortés desecrated his victims' bodies, dismembering them and storing remains in plastic buckets. He even used the victims' cell phones to send misleading messages to their families, giving them false hope that their daughters had run away or were still alive. For years, he manipulated the truth, staying one step ahead of both grieving families and law enforcement. Some families reported strange messages, phrases that didn't match the way their daughters usually spoke, sudden silence after "I'm okay" texts, and stories that never made sense. But when they went to the police, their pleas were dismissed as overreactions. It wasn't until Cassandra survived that the police finally took notice. But by then, it was far too late for so many others. The scale of his crimes shocked the nation. People couldn't understand how someone so educated, so seemingly normal could commit such unspeakable acts. But as investigators dug deeper, a pattern emerged. Cortés was not a man out of control. He was precise. He had studied serial killers. He read forensic manuals. He planned his crimes carefully, always working alone, always cleaning up after himself. In prison, Cortés continued to disturb. He was kept in solitary confinement, but his behavior raised red flags. He showed no remorse, no shame. He often spoke to himself, boasting about how clever he had been. He told guards he wanted to donate his brain to science so that experts could study what made him different. He even made chilling phone calls to victims' families from behind bars, mocking them and admitting that he didn't regret a thing. He acted as though he had won, as though the fear and damage he caused would last longer than any sentence a courtroom could give him. Then, less than a year after his arrest, Miguel Cortés was found dead in his prison cell. Officials said he had fallen from his bunk bed and died from a cardiac arrest brought on by intoxication. But the story didn't add up. Cortés was under strict surveillance. He was in a high-security facility on medication and not supposed to have access to anything that could be used for self-harm. His sudden death raised suspicions. Some believed he had committed suicide to escape justice. Others believed someone had silenced him, perhaps to keep him from revealing more names or exposing failures in the prison system. Families of the victims were outraged. Many felt that justice had been stolen from them. Cortés had never stood trial. He had never been sentenced. He had taken dozens of lives, and yet he died before facing the consequences. For the mothers, sisters, and daughters left behind, it was a second kind of death. The death of truth, of justice, of closure. Protests erupted. Families gathered outside government buildings, holding up pictures of their missing daughters. They demanded transparency. They demanded to know how a man capable of so much violence could have gone unnoticed for so long. Some had filed reports years earlier, but those reports were ignored or mishandled. If the system had acted sooner, many lives could have been saved. What made this case so terrifying wasn't just the number of victims. It was the ease with which Cortés operated. He didn't hide in the shadows. He lived in a modest apartment, surrounded by neighbors. People heard strange noises. They noticed foul odors, but no one reported it. And when reports were made, they were often dismissed. How could a man dismember more than 24 women in a residential building without raising suspicion? The answer lies in a culture of indifference, a system where women go missing and society shrugs, a system where victims are blamed and justice is delayed until a tragedy becomes too big to ignore. The monster of Iztacalco became a symbol of something far more insidious, a society that too often fails to protect women, and a justice system that looks the other way. Mexico has long struggled with femicide, gender-based killings of women, and Cortés's crimes added fuel to a fire that was already raging. Despite his death, the investigation into Miguel Cortés continues. Authorities are still working to identify the full number of victims. Some of the remains found in his apartment still haven't been matched to missing persons. Forensic teams are going through evidence piece by piece, hoping to bring closure to families still searching for answers. But for many, the damage is already done. Cortés may be dead, but the pain he caused lives on. His crimes weren't just about murder, they were about control, humiliation, and power. He turned his trauma into terror, and for over a decade, no one stopped him. His story serves as a dark reminder that evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like a neighbor, a coworker, a man with a diploma and a polite smile. And unless we pay attention, unless we listen to survivors, follow up on missing person reports, and hold institutions accountable, it will happen again. Let the story of Miguel Cortés be more than just another headline. Let it be a turning point. Let it remind us that justice delayed is justice denied, and that silence is the greatest ally of monsters.